जय राधा माधवा, जय कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधवा, जय कुंज बिहारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभा, जय गिरिवरधारी, जय गिरिवरधारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभा, जय गिरिवरधारी, जय गिरिवरधारी, जय यशोदानंदना, जय ब्रज जना रंजना, जय ब्रज जना रंजना, जय यशोदानंदना, जय ब्रज जना रंजना, जय ब्रज जना रंजना, यमुना तीरावंचारी, जय कुंज बिहारी, यमुना तीरावंचारी, जय कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधवा, जय कुंज बिहारी, जय राधा माधवा, जय कुंज बिहारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभा, जय गिरि वरधारी, जय गिरिवरधारी, जय गोपी जन वल्लभा, जय गिरिवरधारी, जय गिरिवरधारी, जय यशोदानंदना, जय ब्रज जना रंजना, जय ब्रज जना रंजना, जय यशोदानंदना, जय ब्रज जना रंजना, जय ब्रज जनरंजना यमुना तीरावनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी यमुना तीरावनचारी जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधवा जय कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे ओ हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय राधा गोपी जना वल्लभा राधा गोपी जना वल्लभा जय निताय पतिता पावन गौरा हरि जय निताय पतिता पावन गौरा हरि प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर डिवाइन ग्रेस अभय शरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी श्री प्रभुपाद की जय जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णविंद की जय नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीवा गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ छठ गोस्वामी प्रभुगण की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to lotus feet of Shri Shri Bhagavan Shri Gauranga Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Agyantimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajata Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitam Sham He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vansha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Panchatatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Sarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Ukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yatkripa tamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitaneshwaram. So we are reading from Shrimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, chapter 24, verse number 14. Ima duhitara satyastava vatsa samadhyamaha sargam etam prabhavaishwar brahm brahmyasyanti anekada. Ima duhitara satyastava vatsa sumadhyama sargam etam prabhavaishwar ब्रह्मायिष्यन्ति अनेकदा इमाधुरितरः सत्यस्तव वत्सा समध्यमा सुमध्यमा सर्गम एतं प्रभावै स्वे ब्रह्मायिष्यन्ति अनेकदा. Synonyms: Imaha, these, Duritaraha, daughters, Satya, chaste, Tava, your, Vatsa, O my dear son, Sumadhyama, thin-waisted, Sargam, creation, Etam, this, Prabhavai, by descendants, Swai, their own, Bhaishyanti, they will increase, Anekada, in various ways. Translation purport: by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Lord Brahma then praised Kadava Muni's 9 daughters, saying, all your thin-waisted daughters are certainly very chaste. I am sure they will increase this creation by their own descendants in various ways. Purport: in the beginning of creation, Brahma was concerned more or less with increasing the population. And when he saw that Kadava Muni had already begotten 9 nice daughters, he was hopeful that through the daughters many children would come who would take charge of the creative principle of the material world. He was therefore happy to see them. The word Sumadhyama means a good daughter of a beautiful woman. If she has a thin waist, a woman is considered very beautiful. All the daughters of Kadava Muni were of the same beautiful feature. Okay, so this is uh, Brahmaji praising Kadava Muni's 9 daughters. um, the theme that I was reflecting on, like considering this particular verse yesterday, um, and the theme I was considering for today's discussion is how Brahmaji's vision was centered around his service. We see like when Brahmaji is seeing the 9 daughters of Kadaba Muni, he is thinking how it will expand the creation. In other words, I wanted to focus on engaging the mind in the service of the Lord and taking shelter of the service of the Lord. Brahmaji was given the service of creation, and Brahmaji was very dedicated to his service. And because Brahmaji was dedicated to his service, he was seeing every incident with respect to his service. And that's how we engage our mind in service of Krishna. And we see that how Brahmaji was seeing everything with respect to his personal service. Now we see in the beginning when 4 Kumaras were born, Brahmaji was very much attached to his service. And this is a good thing. We must be attached and find shelter in the service of the Lord. We'll discuss, I don't know how the discussion will go, but just this is the only point I want to focus on today. When 4 Kumaras were born, Brahmaji requested them to procreate, and when they did not want to, it created anger in Brahmaji. And then from that anger, Rudra was born. Then he requested Rudra to procreate, and Rudra procreated, but it was not a good progeny. Then later on, when Brahmaji was trying, not much was happening. Manu came. He requested Manu and his wife to procreate. They willingly accepted. And wherever we see Brahmaji is very much focused on his service. And when he saw Kardama Muni gave birth to 9 daughters, he's simply seeing everything from the perspective of how will how can I render my service to my worshipable Lord? The another example. So the idea is uh, just like Krishna says, "Man mana bhavna bhakta madhyajimam namaskuru." Always remember me. Always think of me. Always remembering me. Always think of me is not possible in the beginning stages. It is something that will eventually come when in the beginning stages we are always remembering Krishna through his service. And eventually the stage will come when we can always remember Krishna. We'll go through some details of this, Krishna willing, Guru and Krishna willing. We see one example of attachment to service in the pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Govinda, when Govinda everyday service was to massage the lotus feet of the Lord, and Mahaprabhu was very tired. And Govinda went inside the room, and it's a small room, Gambhira. Those who have been, it's in the house of Kashi Mishra. There's a small room where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spent um, 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 almost over 24 years in Antya Leela. He spent there. And even in Madhya Leela, on his return to South India, Sama Bhattacharya showed him his place of residence in the house of Kashi Mishra. It's a very small room. So Mahaprabhu was staying by the door, and as Govinda opened the door, because Mahaprabhu was obstructing, he wanted to go to the feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then Govinda requested, "My Lord, please give me some sight so I can go across and reach and do my service of massaging your feet." And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Govinda, do whatever you like. I'm very tired. Please don't ask me to move." And then Govinda stepped over the waist, the chest and waist, the torso of the Lord to get to the feet of the Lord, and he started massaging. Um, then Govinda had not taken his lunch also, because first he would do his service to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then he would go out and take the remnants of whatever is remained from Lord Chaitanya. So he was waiting there, and Mahaprabhu got up after how much ever time. And then he saw Govinda was still there, and naturally he has not eaten anything. So Mahaprabhu asked Govinda, "Govinda, why are you here?" So um, Govinda said, "I came to massage your feet, so I stepped over you to massage your feet." Then Mahaprabhu said, "Then why didn't you go and take your lunch after you are done?" And Govinda was silent. He did not say anything. Um, then Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami replied that Govinda was thinking in his mind that for the service of the Lord, I can even cross over the Lord if it's conducive for my service, and I'm willing to go through any reaction for this offense of crossing over the Lord, if it is meant to serve the Lord. But for my own pleasure or for my own comfort, I cannot cross the Lord, because going was his own will. There was no service as specific to the Lord, but coming was his service. So we see his dedication and his willingness to go an extra mile, um, and to be very consistent in his service, and not taking any excuse for not being able to do his service. So this is something that we should learn in our own life, is our services, whatever we are doing, we should be very consistent. When we are consistent, then everybody, all the devotees will also develop faith in us, that okay, this person is reliable. When we are not consistent in our services, then another time devotees are very cautious to give us any service, and that's where our misfortune begins. Our misfortune is when the devotees leave us alone. Why? Because they're hesitant to say anything to us. And when they will be hesitant, when they saw that devotees are also, they are not going to force us, but they are going to see actually the service attitude. And when naturally the devotees will approach those whom they're very comfortable asking services, and who they will be comfortable asking services, those in whom they see that this person is actually eager to do service. And whatever service is given to this person does the service with perfection or with details. And he is not just coming and doing the service somehow or other getting it done, but he is doing it with patience, he is doing it consistently, he is doing it from his heart. This service attitude is very important to develop. This service attitude is naturally a sign of goodness. And as we progress in Krishna consciousness, this service attitude naturally grows. But if we don't have, then Prabhupada would say, whatever we don't have, fake it till you make it. So we see Govinda was very much consistent in his service. No matter what happens, he has to massage the lotus feet of the Lord while Mahaprabhu take rest after the lunch. Um, there is one contemporary example. I love this example. I was hearing, and this devotee mentioned about there is a devotee by the name Madhav Prabhu. Many of you may not know him. So Madhav Prabhu joined the temple. It's a real story. Just like 10-15 years back, he joined the temple, and he was a Western body devotee. Um, and he spent few months there, and he was very much attracted to the deities in the temple. So he developed a desire to cook for them. But naturally, he was at that point of time in the beginning stages, he was not initiated. So he requested the devotees. So they said, yes, you can come and cook. In this temple, not many rules about only initiated devotees can cook. So he actually went to assist some devotees in cooking. And then they would ask him that, what can I do to, what can I cook? So these devotees who were in charge of the lunch cooking, they told him, well, you cut vegetables. Sorry, you make the salad. So he would make the salad. It would be done in 10 minutes. And then they asked him. Then he asked them, anything else I can do? They said, no, that's all. Just cut the salad. So he would come and cut the salad, but he was little bit disheartened in the beginning that I have such a small service, just cutting the salad. And it is done so quickly. And then some spark came in his mind, and he was thinking, well, let me, whatever service I have been given, let me do this service nicely. And the next day he went at the same time, and he took almost 1.5 hour, or eventually he took 1.5 hour to cut the salad. He would cut in a very nice shape and all different varieties, and just he would decorate the bowls, all the bowls of the Lord, how many deities were there, very attractive way, and everybody was very impressed. And then slowly he kept on increasing the quality of his service. He would just cut salad for the Lord, and then he started coming half an hour before um, the 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 devotees who were in charge of cooking lunch. He started coming half an hour before them to just cut the salad, which actually take 2 to 3 minutes. And now he would spend 2.5 hours just to cut the salad and give his best. That this is, I am making it for Radha Krishna, God will try. So he started spending so much time in just cutting the salad. And everybody, and just by doing that one service, which actually was just 3 minutes, everybody recognized him that, oh, he puts his heart in the service he does. He is a very sincere Vaishnava. And then at one point of time, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj came to the temple, and the devotees requested him that, you make very nice salad, and Maharaj likes salad. So can you take the service of making a salad for Maharaj? So he put the whole effort with gratitude in his heart and made the salad for Radhanath Maharaj. and apparently Maharaj liked the salad the most. And this devotee was sharing that how in the beginning I was disappointed because I was thinking, what kind of service I have just cut the salad. And he was done and he was disappointed. But then he just started putting his heart into the service. And he received so much mercy from so many devotees, from Radhanath Maharaj, from the deities. And he just became recognized for that one service of cutting the salad. So it's what made this devotee being recognized is just his principle of putting the heart into the service. And this also shows that in our consciousness we may have differentiation in the service. Well, I am cooking for the Lord, or sometimes we consider some services are more important, some as less important, but it's not what we serve, it's the consciousness in which we serve um, actually make us recognized by you see so many devotees are rendering so many different types of services in the temple, but those, it doesn't matter who is recognized, are those who have a service attitude, who are willing to render service, and they try to do their best. Those devotees are recognized, not those who are cooking or who are dressing or who are doing apparently in our term more important services. In our conception, more important service is something that we can do after Brahman initiation, because that's something I'm not able to do now. So probably they must be more important than what I'm able to do now, or vice versa. However, these are the ways usually the mind may think, but it's not the external that Lord is looking, but the Lord and the devotees both. When I'm saying devotees, the devotees who are assigning services, they're looking at the consciousness, they're looking at the attitude of the service. And we need service to be able to absorb our mind, because we are not on a platform. I'm speaking about myself. We are not on a platform that we can chant 24 hours, or we can read 24 hours. And actually, if we are not doing Shravanam Kirtanam, and if we are not serving, then we are doing something else. And how do we become more and more Krishna conscious? How do we engage more and more time in Krishna consciousness? So there is some important instruction, like I was just contemplating on this aspect. If we see the sixth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, this is just the last point I want to mention for today. In sixth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna describes the process of Ashtanga Yoga, and there he mentions there is Yama Niyamas, and then there is Asana, there is Pranayam, and then there is Pratyahara and Dharana, Dhyana, and Samadhi. So there is Asana. Asana means one has to do physical asanas. And from when one does very nicely, then the body is controlled. Because by nature, because of our conditioning, the senses are very active and are very distracting. So the first step that Krishna mentions in this Ashtanga Yoga, and these steps are similar in Bhakti Yoga also, but in different ways. I'm just trying to make that connection here from what I've heard. So there is asana aspect, which is engaging our body and senses and our limbs in a physical activity. And then after asana, there is pranayam. Pranayam is to control the mind. First, control the body, the senses, control the mind. And then there is dharana. Dharana means you withdraw the senses from the sense objects. And then there is dhyan. And then you can, because the body is not agitated, the mind is very peaceful, and the senses are withdrawn from the sense objects. And then one can focus on remembering the Lord. Because if one try to remember the Lord, the senses will distract us. So many demands. Lord Krishna says in second chapter Bhagavad Gita, even one of the roaming senses can distract us away from Krishna. And naturally, our senses are, Prabhupada says, it's natural for senses to demand sense objects because they have been demanding those since time immemorial. The eyes have their own demands, the tongue have their own demands, and these are very powerful demands. and even one of the roaming senses will distract us away from Krishna. But then Narad Muni gives an example of bhakti, and he defines bhakti as Rishikena Rishikesha Sevana Bhakti Uchyate. Bhakti is when we engage the senses in the master of the senses. So when the eyes are engaged in service of the Lord, the hands are engaged, the legs are engaged, the ears are engaged, and the nose is engaged, the tongue is engaged. When all the senses are engaged in service of the Lord, the senses become purified. Now, if we do not purify our senses and try to remember Krishna, we won't be able to do that because senses will be immediately distracted. And that's why, in case of Ashtanga Yoga, there is a practice of asanas, which is to control all the senses. Asanas and pranayama is to control all the senses, so we can eventually remember the Lord without distraction. But in case of bhakti yoga, for us, asana and pranayama correspond to physical service. Physical service will engage our hands, legs, entire body, all the senses in service of the Lord. Just like example given of Maharaj Ambarish, how he used the eyes, the nose, the tongue, the body to embrace the devotees, how he used all the senses physically in the service of the Lord. And why there is so much emphasis? Because unless we engage all of us, when we engage our senses in the service of the Lord, the senses are purified. Once senses are purified, then we can just sit and remember the Lord for hours and we'll be able to do so. But till that time, the moment we start chanting, the mind will be distracted because all the senses have their own demands. So sometimes some of the devotees who try to mimic Haridas Thakur and Prabhupada and Saraswati Thakur were very much against this principle that you go to Vrindavan, I mean, the senses are uncontrolled. They are not used in the service of the Lord. And not realizing our position, we try to mimic those who are Mahabhagavad Vaishnavas. So this was not encouraged because our senses are not purified like them. And with impure mind and senses, if we try to mimic them externally, then Prabhupada says, then very soon this person will fall down because these things will distract us. That's why there is so much emphasis. Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter, in the beginning, work is said to be the means. And at an advanced stage, cessation of work is said to be the means. So in the beginning, for them, there is asana practice and other things. And at an advanced stage, there is dhyana and samadhi. Cessation of work and completely absorbed in the Lord. And Prabhupada gave the same direction to us. Prabhupada says, work now, samadhi later. And he would say, at the end of your life, or when you are sufficiently advanced, then you have a desire to continue preaching activities, continue services, or you may retire. We see that even from the example of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, how in the beginning, for 40, 50 years, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was traveling, writing so many books, giving so many lectures, doing whatever services, building Namhatta centers at various places. And in the later stage, he retired in Bhakti Bhavan in Calcutta and was fully absorbed in Lord. But we cannot do that. We cannot mimic that because first work is said to be the means. First, we have to become purified. The senses, the mind, the intelligence, the false ego, they have to become purified. And the way they become purified is in the service of the Lord. Now, if we are engaged in activities that is not service of the Lord, it is not going to purify us. It is not going to purify the senses. So much emphasis on service of the Lord. Okay, so that's all I have. Just this one point I wanted to share and see if there is any reflection or questions or discussion.
Hi, Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada and Gurudev. Prabhuji, I really like the point which you talked about on the service. The service attitude is very important, and specifically giving an example about Madhav Prabhu, how he was actually just even small salad cutting, and he would do with so much of heart that he attracted the mercy of the Guru. Prabhu, I just have one question on that, and this is the difficulty I have. um, I do service one, and I see there is so much of scope for services, and I see so many services around which I can do. But at the same time, I'm committed to do something, and I have other services to do. So there is a guilt which comes within our heart. I'm not doing that service, you know. Of course, the service is remaining, or for an example, kitchen cleaning, whatever it is, right? I'm not able to render that service, but at the same time, I have other services. So there is that guilt. I don't know whether this is good or this is bad, and how do we handle that situation? Because, like, taking care of the kids, you have to take care of them, as well as you have to justify that service, saying that, you know, I'm taking care of them. Because sometimes when I get involved in that service and I get so tired and I just get cranky on kids, and I feel guilty about that part. um that's the question, Prabhuji. Sorry.
Yeah, Prabhuji, what I can say is service under guidance helps. And then if we are under guidance of a particular Vaishnav, then the way we become carefree is by taking guidance. Okay, this is my service and I want to do this also. Um, what do you think will please you more? Or is it the right thing to do? So when we have, that's where the shelter comes. When we have the shelter, then we feel safe. General principle, Prabhuji. Like this is a very important point of serving under guidance. Like I'll give one example, Prabhu. It's a very difficult example to quote, but I learned something from that. This example of Bhakti Charu Maharaj and Bhakti Prem Maharaj. Sham Kishore Prabhu told me this example. Bhakti Prem Maharaj is a very exalted Vaishnava, a pure Vaishnava, and he was taking care of many services, and now his service has further increased. And Bhakti Prem Maharaj would chant 64 rounds every day. So um, now naturally, because a lot of time was going um, in chanting, so some of the services that he was doing was getting compromised. So um, somehow it came to the notice of Bhakti Charu Maharaj, and Maharaj asked Bhakti Prem Maharaj. I mean, Bhakti Prem Maharaj is sannyasi, so we can understand. But Bhakti Prem Maharaj mentioned that, Maharaj, yes, this is happening because I have started chanting 64 rounds. And Maharaj told Bhakti Prem Maharaj that, see, this service is given to you by me, but 64 rounds is not a service that is given to you by me. It is your personal service. It is your personal choice. Um, that's all Maharaj said, and he did not say anything. But from there, what I took is the importance serving under guidance, just the principle of dependent service. Just for example, if Srila Prabhupada would want his disciple that no, you go to China and you preach, and the disciples say that no, Prabhupada, I cannot do it because I won't have time to preach because I'm chanting 64 rounds now. And now then the question comes, what is more important? Um, um, my independent service or what Prabhupada wants me to do. And our emphasis is on now. Here, Brahmaji was given the service by the Lord. Govinda was given service by the Lord. Madhav Prabhu was given service by the Lord, and they put in their heart. So there is emphasis on guided service. Otherwise, this Swatantra Bhav may increase. The Swatantra Swabhav may increase, or independence may increase. I mean, it's a very difficult point, especially one time I think me and Sham Kishore Prabhu were driving. Um, um, I mean, this is actually a very difficult point. Me and Sham Kishore Prabhu were driving Bhakti Prem Maharaj. Bhakti Prem Maharaj was um, uh, um, he was serving as our temple president for this Florida project. Now it went to GBC after Maharaj departure. So me and Sham Kishore were asking some question. I don't even remember what question we were asking, but I remember the answer. And Bhakti, and this was applicable to just me and Sham Kishore. All of you are very surrendered souls. But Bhakti Prem Maharaj says the reason we are not able to make progress is because of our rebellious nature against the authority. And we both were thinking like, wow. But the thing is, if somebody doesn't speak truth, then how will we get guidance and how will we make progress? So you're like, okay, we were discussing, Roji, what do we do? How do we subdue our rebellious nature? And it is natural because we have been living an independent life, I think, since time immemorial. And then working under somebody or working under guidance becomes very difficult. But at the same time, that's the anecdote for ahankar. Um, sorry, David, bro, you are a great Vaishnav, but I just took this opportunity to say whatever came in my mind, or not at all directed to you, bro.
This is very, very wonderful, Prabhu. Very deep, actually, talking about there are personal services as well as there are services which are given by the authority. They take priority. That is wonderful, Prabhu, because I make that mistake that I whimsically take things which I may not be assigned. Again, it's not that everything has to be assigned, but yeah, just prioritization is the key, and you prioritize with that principle. Thank you for sharing that, Prabhuji.
And also, I've seen that when we actually are consistent in our services, that helps us go beyond the bodily platform. Sometimes we are sick, sometimes we don't feel like, sometimes we are exhausted. So there are many emotions that comes in the mind. And this just the consistent service helps us go beyond, like like beyond our comfort zone to serve Krishna. And if we like sometimes we don't want to take service because we feel like, oh, I won't be able to continue, and then we take shelter of our own comfort zone. But when we take service and we are consistent, it helps us to extend beyond us, beyond our sleep, beyond our tiredness, beyond. And if you don't give it up and if you are consistent, that's how we become noticed by Guru and Krishna also. And that's how we train ourselves. Prabhupada said Krishna conscious is about training ourselves to become servant of the Lord. And servant means what pleases. In spiritual world also, Krishna wants perfect servants. And this is an opportunity.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you. Any
Hare
other
Krishna, Prabhuji. Just that in our therapy world too, we have a goal that we work on for special needs kids. It's called Defiance to Follow Adult Directives. So I think I need that therapy more. And thank you so much for sharing that point, Prabhuji.
Thank you,
Very
Mataji.
grateful.
Very grateful to you. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Anything else? So I guess then we can end here. Very grateful to all the assembled devotees. Please keep in your prayers. Panchakalpa Tarubhyasham.
Sorry, Prabhuji.
Yes. Vasanta Swati.
Prabhuji, Prabhuji, what if authority did not give any service to us? And if we are willing to do service, we can approach the authority and request the service, or we have to wait until authority gives us the service, Prabhuji.
It's good to approach them. It's like, usually, like one option is if we are serving and then we have some free space, it is nice to engage in more hearing and chanting whenever space we have, practically speaking. But at the same time, if we want some regular service, or if we are doing some service and we are not sure if then always guidance helps. But we also need some space to um, focus on our own hearing chanting, because we don't want to engage in so much service also that we have no time for personal sadhana. So that balance is very nice. Like one of the instruction of Guru and Prabhupada is also to systematically read Prabhupada books every day for 1 to 2 hours, um, and hearing, because that will help us grow. So we are simultaneously engaging our senses, purifying them in service of the Lord, and simultaneously we want to increase our absorption, which will come by hearing. So that balance between sadhana and seva will, like good sadhana will improve the seva bhav, service attitude, and service attitude will enhance our sadhana, and hand in hand. But having regular service and gratitude for the service and service attitude will help, and service under guidance. Did I answer, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki. If I spoke anything wrong, please forgive me as a humble servant. Dandavat pranam. Hare Krishna.
Shyamananda Krishna Prabhu ki jai.
Ananta
Yes.
Vaishnav Vrinda
Hare
ki
Krishna,
jai.
Prabhuji.
Thank
Hare
you so much,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Such
Thank you.
insightful
Thank you so much,
thoughts.
Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Thank you so
Thank
much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam. Amazing class, Prabhuji. It answers so many questions. Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandavat.
Hare